Hello guys, so we are now in Dubai and here with you Anna Tutova, co-founder of Coinstelegram, and we have really cool guest today, Kyle Chasse, who is founder of MBA Global, as well Commonwealth and Plate Network, and they allow as well people all over the world to get into crypto and to get early access into deals which used to be available only to the big VCs. So privileged investors. And as well, Kyle has a really cool YouTube channel, and it's probably one of the fastest growing YouTube channel currently. And he plans as well to build his own media company. And we'll know more from Kyle about his market views and building his companies, and as well his altcoin picks.
And a lot of Bitcoin maximalists and people generally believers in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency betting against the US dollar, and the fiat currency has hyperinflation. And we see as well the elections in the US coming up. So what are your thoughts how this influence the market?
Well, you have right now we have the highest. United States has the highest, obviously, debt it's ever been in. I think global debt, and even with higher interest rates right now, the interest alone on the debt the United States owes is higher than the GDP. So they have two options on the way that they can either deal with it. One is to default, which would send America into instantly into a third world country and be havoc. So they can't let that happen. So the only other option is to print more money to pay for the debt. So you're going to have a year and also it's election season, so that they were going to want the economy to look very strong. And so even though they're not mentioning quantitative easing in Jerome Powell's last big delivery, it was essentially leaning to that direction, which means that there's going to be a lot more debasement and whether they call it money printing or in any other way, there's going to be a lot of injection of stimulus into the economy, which is going to, again, debase or devalue the purchasing power of the US dollar. This is not just in the United States. It's just the easiest one to talk about because they would be the one that people would think of. If they have problems, imagine everybody else is also going to have problems. I mean, the U.S. at least has other people who hold its dollar as reserves, unlike every other country. And they're still having massive problems with people trusting the dollar as a source of reserve. This is just one more catalyst on top of all the other catalysts for people to be holding Bitcoin. Then we see, the second largest economy in the world, probably soon to be the first, China, where they have capital controls, really bad economy, that economy that's not doing so well right now.
I think China bans crypto.
They kind of banned crypto, and Hong Kong is still kind of under their control, but that's the more test ground, if you will. So they just approved this Bitcoin and Ethereum spot ETFs, and that should be a big injection into the market as well. I read something that said there'd be about could be up to $25 billion more injected into Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is it's okay. But I think that was probably an estimate of the immediate institutions that were maybe would be looking to deploy. But I think that there's probably going to be a lot of other ultra high net worth individuals who themselves buy billions of dollars through this ETF, because if you're in China right now, you don't have a lot of places that you can put your money because of capital controls. So you can only take out, I think, $50,000 a year outside, which is nothing for them. So you have that catalyst. Like I've been saying for a while, I think that there has been other countries that have approved Bitcoin spot ETFs before America, but America was kind of the signal for the rest of the world to go ahead and start doing that as well. We know that Germany's on the path to it. We know that Brazil is offering BlackRock's ETF to their customers. So it's starting to spread like crazy. We have Michael Saylor as a publicly traded company, whose valuation has gone up significantly from him allocating his entire, essentially, cash reserves into Bitcoin. then we saw another company recently following that model, like selling some equity in exchange for Bitcoin on the balance sheet. I think that is going to be a narrative that continues to continue as well. Michael Saylor was just the guinea pig for it, but I think that makes sense that that's going to snowball as well. So when you have, and then we just had the halving yesterday, or earlier this morning. So you have all of these events, and for some reason the price of Bitcoin's still below 70,000, but all of these events that are leading into what would make a formula for like the most bullish bull market ever, and then you have, of course, the scarcity of Bitcoin and its availability. So there's the lowest amount of Bitcoin on exchanges right now that there has been in years, and that they just had the halving. There should be less sell pressure coming from miners. I even saw something recently about banks now have skipped OTC desks and trying to go directly to miners to buy Bitcoin. And so when the OTC desks don't have any more Bitcoin to sell, and the miners can't mine enough to sell to the people who want it, there's the only place that they can go buy it is exchanges, and if exchanges have very small amounts left there, and there's a lot of demand, then that should send the price skyrocketing. So I think that we all hear this word supply shock or supply crunch coming. I think we're about to see it happen quite soon, and this is why I think that this is definitely not priced in, obviously, everything we just talked about. And I have a feeling, and I know it's hard for people who do charts, technical analysis, to believe that there will be a period, probably not too distant future, where like the ultra high net worths, the governments, the pension funds, they start to see like Bitcoin might just jump up like $5,000 to $10,000 in a day. That's not insignificant. But then what will be different is that it'll do it again the next day, and then the next day, and then maybe see a little tiny sell off, and the next day, and then again, and then it'll get that. Obviously, we'll get all the retail's attention, which should be back in here by then. So then they start buying, because retail still isn't really here yet, not in a big way anyway. And so then retail will come rushing in. That'll go make the price even go higher, and then we'll have this like the situation where like really there will be very little Bitcoin floating around or available, and so. But everyone's always willing to sell for a price. That's how the fair markets work. But that's why I try not to like make these statements or claims. And I'm also self-admittedly like a over-optimistic early bull on the whole market. So, I built that Bitcoin lottery 2013, thinking that by like 2015 or 17 we would have adoption. But. Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw Bitcoin at, in the next year and a half or something, $1 million. To me, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Do you think it can go up so quickly?
I think it can, because.
What should be the grounds for that?
My theory is this. Right now, every country has their unit of account, their currency, their reserve, whatever. Some hold gold, but gold is held predominantly by a few countries, right? And so it's not on the table for a lot of people. Plus, it's also not something that's going to appreciate significantly. So everyone who is rational and smart, and you would hope that the people who run the financial systems at these different countries have rational and smart brains. You would look at the future where you lie right now with your currency and how that's going. Like, what are your options right now? It's to continue to print more, because that whole system is broken. The monetary system, the fractional reserve, the way that new money gets created out of thin air, the way that every dollar purchased at the Federal Reserve turns into like $9 more after that through magic stuff. That doesn't work to maintain a value in some sort of cash for fiat or asset. Right now, the only thing that on the planet right now that is artificially scarce and that can be owned by anybody that's not politically weird is Bitcoin. And so my thesis is that Bitcoin will, without a doubt, become the world reserve currency. At least one of them, but it will become a world reserve currency. Whether it's officially accepted as that or it just happens, but because everyone says, oh, I wonder if this country or this president or this leader will eventually adopt Bitcoin as a reserve. And for me, what I think on that answer is like, it's not if they will, it's when will they. And the when is when they realize that if they don't make a change soon, that they're going to get left behind in a big way. Because if you just take the time to learn about Bitcoin for real and don't brush it off as something that's a fad or whatever, then you understand the real true value of it. And then when you see big players coming in, and we know that like there's other big countries that haven't been public about their Bitcoin holdings. Like,
so what countries do you think are holding?
Saudi for sure. I think Saudi for sure. I think UAE for sure. And I know Saudi is because of just one of the royal family that I've spoken to. Who, when I met him, I told him, I said, man, I watched a documentary and they said, Saudi, like UAE, are now building these mega projects because they need to figure out a way for longevity, because one, the oil reserves that they have may dry up one day, but also oil will become less relevant as electrified things continue. As that technology develops and batteries get built, like there'll be less need for oil.
But do you think Saudi hasn't legalized tariffs?
So they're afraid about. They're not afraid. They're just trying to be cautious about the way that they do approach it. So, like they're okay with they're okay. This is how every new participant thinks. Like, in late 2017 or 2018, we had this whole thing going around where everyone's like, yeah, well, we like blockchain, but not crypto. Like, huh? What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about?
Like every country says that.
Yes.
Every bank too.
Yeah. So you're telling me that you like databases, but not decentralization or all the benefits that come with blockchain. Eventually, they will realize that like a centralized blockchain has no value. It doesn't do anything for anybody. It's literally just a database, SQL database. That's it. And it provides no transparency, no trust. It doesn't do anything that they're meant to do. So how I know is that I was talking to a person from the royal family who's pretty high up there, and I had watched this documentary about how Saudi wants to get off of the oil standard as their only reliable source of income. And that's why they're building all these tourist things, these places, these mega projects, giga projects. But I was like, man, why don't you guys just? I mean, you guys have like trillions of dollars. Why don't you just buy a Bitcoin? And he goes, how do you know we haven't already? And because if you're smart, like then you do it, right? Everyone who's smart just and takes the time to learn does it. I also have this. It's not a philosophy of mine. I don't know the best way to describe it. It's a theory, and it's not a theory that I think is correct, but it's a plausible theory that is also hard to refute. And the question is like, who is Satoshi Nakamoto, right? And there's been a lot of speculation about who that might be. Was it the cypherpunks? Was it Hal Finney? Was it Adam Back? Was it Sergey
Not Adam Back.
Was it Sergey Naz? Whatever. Who was it? Was it Dorian Yates? Like, who knows? So I made a YouTube video on this a while ago, just because I think it's interesting to think about. So there's this very powerful group of people around the world that we all don't really know who they are, but we know that they.
Sometimes it's the CIA or like U.S. government or Chinese government.
So So there's a very powerful group around the world that essentially controls everything. Because which president was it that said, like, I care not about who makes the rules, I care about who controls the money supply or the money, right? And like, this is a very famous quote, because the people who control the money supply can literally do anything. They can buy anything. You have all the power in the world. If you watch the history of the Federal Reserve and how it was created, and the group of people that were around, the families that were involved in making the Federal Reserve, you understand that those are the people who really control the world. So the Federal Reserve, this has happened in early, like 19 something, I don't know, 17 or something like that. And those who tried to oppose it were killed. And so that's 100 years ago, essentially, where that structure came into place. And then you came into all this power, right? Like and I think it was, I don't know, anyway. So you have all this power, and you also operate the shadows, right? Essentially, and then you have all this people in the front who make the public believe that they've got voting rights and things like that. So if you have 100 years and you've got all the money in the world that you need, wouldn't you hire the best investigators, the most brilliant mathematicians, economists? You would hire the most insane team to make sure that you're never disrupted, right? You would have insane defense. It would just be, so anytime that there would be any talk anywhere about anyone creating some sort of new money system that might be better than the thing that you control, you'd be watching that like a hawk, observing. And so if I was those guys who controlled the dollar, essentially, and then I saw these group of cypherpunks who were trying to make this like dollar that could be global and whatever, could compete with mine, I would either deploy my own team to look at what they've been doing and try to do it faster and better than them because they have a bunch of resources, or I would also infiltrate, and I would infiltrate the cypherpunks with my own spies who would go in there and try to do something. I'd also try to find out who was the main person behind it, or I might just learn that it is possible, and then I might just create it if I had the power to do that. Now, the question is, if you are these people, let's call them, Group X or whatever, right? So if you're Group X, and you have to think about, okay, if the next version of money needs to be a global one, how do we get buy-in from all the different countries? Because there's so much political power. Like, no one wants to use it. Like, a lot of people would be afraid to use it to have the Chinese, yuan and their reserve. That's too politically charged. Like, now you've got East and West division, and you've got like, and now you've got like BRICS trying to create a currency, and like their alliance versus the dollar, and like politics has to be eliminated from the equation. So you would know this as well, and then see, go, okay, well, how does this look on its path to being adopted? Well, you gently guide it along, and you put it through what would this look like if it happened organically? Well, there'd be some resistance, there would be some drama, there'd be there'd be the stuff that happened, but the most important thing is that they must control a large percent of supply. We know that Satoshi holds already 1 million plus. That's just what we know for sure. That's
that the like scenario comes out and remove people agency and just dump the first and just like
There's no way. He wouldn't do that because it would. But what is he going to buy? Fiat? Which is going to be like, what are you going to trade your precious Bitcoin for worthless fiat? Like, what? Even if even Satoshi was.
Why not? You can dump the first
and then do it. Yeah, and then but then also, and then it's fiat. Then he goes back into a shitty, like, he'll have a bunch of fiat. Then he'll go, and then probably like then people would kill him. He already has enough for all his life, even if just in Bitcoin. Like, his value in Bitcoin is probably more valuable than selling it into fiat, because they would just need to print more, and he'd also probably be hunted down and killed, and you would never do it. But back to so what makes more sense to me is that if you were this group creating this thing, like, then you make it look like an organic path to adoption, where it starts out and then it is out there kind of in the wild, right? And now it is decentralized, but you mine the first million Bitcoin, and as you see your plan working, meaning that more people are picking it up, and also remember, these people also control the entire media, right? They also control the media companies and the narratives around that, and so they can help steer narrative and a timeline of like, when do we think the U.S. dollar is going to come to it already won't survive anymore. And like we're at a point right now where like a very fragile point in the U.S. dollar right now where they print too much more. Anyone holding reserves is like it's lost 25% of its purchasing power in the last 4 years. Like that's insane. Like if you just hold dollars, and 4 years from now, it's probably accelerating now. Another 40 years, it might lose 50% of its purchasing power. It's completely unsustainable right now. So right now, it's a turning point where like, what do you do? And this is also the point exactly when Bitcoin happens to be coming into a prominent place where BlackRock and Larry Fink and regulation. So the timing makes a lot of sense. It would be all organic. And then what would happen basically is like, let's say you had some type of like big UN gathering or something where a bunch of world leaders were together, and Klaus Schwab comes out and says, "Yeah, this fiat is not working. What are we going to do?" And then anyone have any ideas, right? And then it would just be some guy from like some random country, Ethiopia or something. Well, how about Bitcoin? And he's like, and then everyone's like, it sounds like a good idea. And then everyone agrees all at once at this point because it's not politically charged. It's been fairly distributed over time. But keep in mind, this group X, they have the first million Bitcoin. And then they could have been accumulating the whole entire way. So they could hold 50% of the supply right now, 60% of the supply in different wallets. You just never know. But that's how you would assure that that for the next 100 years, that you don't lose your power position. Right? And so I made this video outlining it, that thesis, and the end result was like, either way, whether it's the benevolent Satoshi that we all hope it is, or this shadowy group of power-hungry, the bottom line was buy Bitcoin because it's going to be super valuable either way. But I do think that while I don't believe that is the case, what I said, I also don't believe that it's not the case because we just don't know who it is, and to me that argument makes more sense than anything else that I've heard from anybody. Other than just what we kind of generally believe that some anonymous person created it, released to the world, which is a beautiful thing that did happen too. But I don't remember why I told you that story, but yeah, it was because of this. I do believe that's going to become, regardless, world reserve currency. And
in how many years is it happen?
It's by 2030. It's the whole Klaus Schwab, the whole the Great Reset, because there also will be now there's also central bank digital currencies coming into play, but you can't have like a central bank digital currency can't simply replace physical cash for a digital one. That's not good enough. The Great Reset, like it needs to be a reset. And so if I'm the United States government, or if I'm anyone who's planning this thing, and I've got, I don't know, $35 trillion of debt right now, well, I'm never going to pay that off that debt. So you have to come out. You would. I talk about this in the video as well. Like you have to come up with a way to get buy-in from the people, from everyone, that to because there's also a fair amount of public backlash against CBDCs, privacy, and everything else that you don't. So what has happened around the world that causes people to instantly buy into an idea that they might have opposed before or put thought into it? You have to put people in crisis mode. They have to be scared, worried, right? When the United States implemented the ability to spy on everybody, they 9/11 happened first, and then said terrorists, and made everyone so scared that we're going to be attacked by terrorists, so that they look, here's this anti-terrorist bill that says we're going to make sure that we don't get hit by terrorists anymore. This is going to prevent terrorism. Do you guys want terrorists to happen? No, you don't want terrorism. Pass this bill for terrorist prevention. right? And the whole thing was so that they can literally wiretap and spy on everybody. And that bill passed through no problem because there's just this big idea of fear in everyone's mind. We have a situation right now where we have an unsustainable monetary system where the dollar likely you hear people saying they're just kicking the can down the road, because we're supposed to have major market corrections like every 10 years. It's been a long time since we've had it because they just keep printing more money when they really should let it drop, fail, and so I think that for the CBDC to come into the full effect and to have buy-in from people, they need a catastrophe to happen, meaning a crazy black swan that's 10 times worse than the 2008 crash, something like as bad as the 1932 Great Depression. That kicks in, and all of a sudden people have real fear. Like, how do I pay my rent? How do I pay for food? Everyone's jobs, everyone just got laid off because there's no more money in the market. No one's making any money, so they can't go buy a store, anything like that. And literally, like, most people in the country are really scared, really fucking worried. Luckily, the government, who always has your back, just so happens to have a plan ready in case such an event happens, which was central bank digital dollar. And guess what, guys? If you just download this app, agree to all the terms and conditions, scan your face, put your thumbprint in there. As soon as you do that, this is going to be the central bank digital currency app. And I'm saying this is the message they're going to say, guys, guess what? We have a solution for all of you. We know that you're hungry and scared.
That's what China does.
It's all good. Just download this app right now, and as soon as you do all the registration and put your biometrics in there and read all the terms and conditions, we're going to airdrop you, $1,200 or whatever. So
UBI.
The UBI thing, and not only that, we're going to do it every month moving forward, and everybody's going to be like, thank you for getting us out of the situation right now because we're starving and we're scared. And that will instantly bring in, and what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, the U.S. dollar was created a long time ago, and so the monetary policy was as well, the fiscal policy. It wasn't by us, whoever created it at the time, like, did the best that they could, but along with CBDC comes an entirely new system where we're going to do things differently. It's going to be better, and with that, we're going to reset the clock, and they're just going to literally take that $30 trillion of debt, and they're going to wipe it to zero. And they're going to say, if anyone has any problems with that, you can talk to our army, right? And they'll deal with you. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't see any other way for it to work. And I think that's the real reason why CBDCs are rolling out. Not only that, but probably that same CBDC will be tied in with the social credit scoring system as well. So I think the only way out of this scenario is through Bitcoin and decentralized alternatives that can give us otherwise. It's a very dystopian type of view, but like I think that there's a lot of crazy shit that's about to happen next 5 years. AI, for example. Like, do you know that we have a 16% chance that our entire species goes extinct in the next 5 or 10 years from AI?
Why from AI?
Because we're building intelligence that in 5 or 10 years will be 1,000 times smarter than us, and
I think it will just eliminate some jobs. Not really.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's probably what all the extinct species thought when we were running around as apes on the planet, who didn't have the ability. But then we industrialized, and it wasn't that we wanted to go kill all the animals. We just needed the forest for paper. We just needed their land to do stuff, and they just happened to be in the way, so we bull down them and killed them in the process. It's not that the AI necessarily would come in like Terminator 2 style and want to like kill us all. It's the fact that we will become potentially so insignificant of what they're doing that we just might be in the way. So best case scenario is that we get put in the zoo somewhere. They're like, hey, you humans can go live over here in the zoo, basically. Or if we're lucky enough, we might be like cats and dogs. We're like little pets to them, right? Like, oh, you cute little human. Like, yeah, here's some food. Like, Or
very drastic scenario.
that's the best case scenario, right? Or worst case is that we just get in the way. We consume resources that they need, and they just figure that we're just better off without you guys. And so they just create some sort of pathogen that has 100% transmission rate, 100% lethal rate, and like we're just gone. And it's like, and so there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now that's crazy to think about. And I know a lot of people when I bring up what I just said at any discussion when it's around AI, usually it's like at the event that we had the other night, we had a panel on AI, and I just said, hey, they're all AI guys up there. I said, hey, what do you guys think about? It's called P-Doom, but it's actually in the AI community. This is the term. I think it stands for probability of doom, like absolute death for all humanity from AI taking over or whatever. The numbers right now are between like 16 and 20% chance that happens from actual research. 16 to 20% chance. That's 20%, 2 in 10, that we are all dead in 10 years. Like, it's a fucking high. It's a high probability. And I don't know why more people aren't concerned about this. The thing is that the people who know the most about this are the most concerned. You see a lot of the CEOs or executives from the biggest AI companies in the world have stepped down to try to actually solve this problem. But when you step down from a big company like Google or OpenAI or like whatever, you step down from there, you have less power than you did before, and like now you're just a voice out there, like a civilian, and trying to like now you're competing against these huge conglomerates who have so much lobbying power that there's not a lot you can do. I only recently started paying attention to this, and it's a really, really big deal that like I had no idea until about 2 weeks ago just how real this was. And then the smartest person I've ever met in my entire life is Emerson Spars. Like I met this fucking amazing guy. Did you talk to him about it? Like literally the smartest person in the world that from everything from IQ. He's smart. Like his brain work. He is an AI. Like the brain his brain works. Do you know him well?
We met in London actually for a common friend. It was 1.5 years ago, and it was like he talks a lot about AI, and I think ChatGPT hasn't existed yet.
Yeah.
No, it existed, but some like previous version, so it was not yet hyped around. And he asked my friend really like a lot of deep questions regarding AI.
So Emerson is like he reads about 600 pages a day.
Yeah, I think all that.
And maintains a normal life. In his life, he's read thousands and thousands of books. So he was staying with me at this crypto resort that I started. This, it was Cryptopia at the time. Now it's House of DAO. This idea of community at the network state. But he came just for a visit. He was going to stay there for 3 days. He ended up staying for 3 months. He invited his mom and dad came, and his brothers and his aunts, and they all just came, kicked it. And his dad told me that they got a huge basement at their house in Chicago, and it's just stacked with books, all categorized by section, from philosophy to history to politics to math to science, whatever. He's read them all. And he also figured out a way in his brain to build essentially like a memory bank cataloging system where he has a way of he'll read a book, he'll be able to somehow annotate the most important parts, and then he does something. He within 3 months he'll go revisit these parts again, and it puts it back better in memory or something like that. I'll have to tell it to you again, but there's only one other person on this planet that I've ever seen that exhibits this kind of intelligence, and it was Aaron Swartz, who was the co-founder of Reddit. And if you ask Emerson about his relationship with Aaron, he'll tell you that he thinks that Aaron Swartz and him were they're two of the most rare people on this planet when it comes to this kind of brain. Unfortunately, Aaron Swartz killed himself the day before his trial when he was doing a very good purpose. The stories, anyway, I suggest everyone goes and watches the documentary, The Internet's Own Boy, the story of Aaron Swartz, co-founder of Reddit. Unbelievable documentary. There was just show you how powerful Aaron and Emerson could and have been. So there was that. I don't know if you guys remember this bill that was supposed to be passed in America. There's two bills called SOPA and PIPA. It was again like the act I talked about before, where they spied on everyone. The whatever it's called, the Patriot Act, the one recently. But again, it was this big stack of papers that were meant to do something for internet, but 2 paragraphs of that would have said that essentially was completely censored the internet, making it that anything that you ever use that has some sort of copyright from anyone else needs permission. And if that passed, the entire internet would be censored, and it wouldn't be nothing like it was today. And that was 99.9% sure it was going to pass. In this documentary, they talk about how typically how like Washington works. When you've got a bill that's proposed, you got like the Republicans on one side, Democrats on the other, and all the money, where's the money, the lobbying being spent. For this bill, everybody was on the passing side. There was everyone was for it. So what Aaron did, and I just found out when I met Emerson 2 weeks ago again, like that he was also part of helping with this, is they realized how urgent and severe this was. So they wrote very compelling letters to the executives of the biggest internet companies in the world, Google, Wikipedia, everybody else. And they said, guys, you guys, if this passes, this is how it's going to affect your website. So what I propose that we do to demonstrate to the rest of the world what the internet will look like if it passes is we go black for 24 hours. And for that 24 hours, the entire internet basically went down. No, like everyone took their sites offline. They said we're offline for the next 24 hours in protest of SOPA and PIPA. The next day, the day that the bill was supposed to pass, there was like, I don't know if it was 1 million people or like 350,000 people all showed up to the Washington Square protesting, stop PIPA, stop PIPA, stop. There was signs up. And there was so much people protesting there that you started seeing everyone who was supposed to vote yes, flipping their vote to a no. And then throughout the course of like 4 or 5 hours, everyone started going to no, and then eventually Barack Obama to a no, and then the bill is crushed. And this is how powerful these guys can be. And the point is that Aaron and Emerson both have these insane brains, and they're because they know so much. Aaron Schwartz used to do the same thing. He would go to the Harvard Library and he would get out like 300 books on law, and in his spare time, between everything else he's doing, would read them all, and then put together a case study of how lobbying affects, false advertising of like some, and he just put out sort of like report, right? And not to monetize it, but just because he liked doing this kind of shit. Like who else does that? It's unbelievable. So, but the point is because they both were able to have so much knowledge about how things work, the execution that they do on anything they put their mind to is always spot on. It's like building a business that can't fail because you've already thought about all the possibilities, ways that things would fail before you put your plan in action. So I know that if Emerson says something, he has thought about it. If he's taking action to do something, he has put in, like, I would never debate him on anything, ever. So yeah, it's only when he came, we had dinner that night, and like it was going to be like a friendly catch up. I was going to tell him about something I was doing that was really cool, and he compared this to that scene in Independence Day, where the Independence Day with Will Smith, this movie, where the giant mothership is flying over Washington, and everyone's looking and sees it, and like some people are partying, yeah, like the aliens are here, first contact, and then some people are scared for their life, they're running away. This is kind of how he sees it with AI. He's like, it's like kind of the spaceship's right there, we can see it, like, and in Independence Day, that was not friendly, right? Attacking everything. And he's like, it's right here. Like all I can think about right now is how do we slow this down, right? This how do we try to get a handle on it? Like, so I don't know. I know that's not part of the crypto story, but like, I do think that that there's a lot of things to think about how we progress over the next 5 to 10 years, and I think there's going to be the most rapid rate of innovation, growth, and also disparity from people who have traditionally held power for a long time. With crypto, we can actually, like, when you hear about people regulating either AI or crypto right now, it's almost laughable because you can't regulate someone who doesn't want to be regulated, right? And there's now with decentralization and decentralized servers and decentralized hosting spaces and like anyone in the world can go build any program or software that they want to and host it on decentralized servers that cannot be shut down, and anyone in the world can go use that thing, and no amount of regulation can ever stop this from happening. So it's at a place right now where it's going to evolve, however it does evolve. And I was watching some panel today with a bunch of people from, or was it Diary of a CEO, where this guy was interviewing I think the CEO of Google's DeepMind. And it's really interesting to hear some of that discussion, because he was asking a lot of real good questions about the safety of AI and the future of it. And you can tell that some of the responses that the CEO was making was, you could tell, first of all, he was a little uncomfortable with the question, but the way he would answer some of the questions were very deflective around that, like not actually directly answering that question. So then you can tell some answers that he was more comfortable with, he would just directly answer it, right? Yeah, so I don't know. My attention is a little bit put on this recently, not because I think that I can do anything about it right now. Like I don't have, I've got too much responsibility here of what we're doing in crypto and stuff. I just hope that there's enough other people, and there's also an 85% chance or whatever that AI is benevolent and that it works in our favor, and we come into a world of abundance where, you know, hunger and poverty and all this goes away, and we don't have to work anymore because everything is done for, like that is the positive outcome of AI that everyone hopes is the future for humanity. But is it worth pursuing, even if there's a 5% chance that we die in the process? It's like we have a nuclear bomb and about to press the button. Like the guys who first tested the nuclear bomb, like when the first nuclear bomb that they tested out in the Nevada desert, they asked Oppenheimer, like, is there a chance that this thing gets so big that it completely evaporates the atmosphere around Earth? Yeah, there's a chance that happens. Fuck it, push a button anyway, you know, and could have completely, but they did it, you know.
Yeah, I still consider that AI should have much more benefits rather than real threats, and it would be like a lot of regulators now trying to regulate AI. But for example, if back then in the old years somebody tried to regulate, for example, fire, because fire as well can be dangerous, like your house may burn and you may die from it. So there wouldn't be progress. So we should have like a balanced approach to that.
Yeah, the thing is it was easier to regulate things before, because before you had decentralization, you had always choke points, right? You always had choke points. So if there was something that's getting out of control, you go direct to the choke point and you crush it there, and it's like supply chain or whatever. Now, even with AI, decentralized systems, you're losing choke points. So you can't regulate it to a way that, like, you can regulate what the biggest companies do, but Llama 3, which is the newest open AI, open sourced community ran model, is now the most recent study showing it's as powerful as GPT-4, and it's open source. It's completely like, so it's not. So before it was like, okay, how do we can regulate the big companies? But now you've got open source development too, but that's happening. So you can't regulate it. Like again, you can try to slow it out. There's choke points in AI, like NVIDIA chips and stuff. But anyway, this could kind of getting derailed from the crypto discussion here, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah, thank you for such deep discussion. I feel like we can maybe going on and on with our conversation. So it's like as long as like Lex Friedman or Jargon 3 hours podcast.
I like that. I'd like to do. So when I first started my YouTube channel, I thought about doing like long form discussions, but maybe one day I'll do it.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us and your vision for the future too. Thank you for being on our channel.
Thank you guys.